All right, ladies and gents, welcome back to the In Rhythm podcast. This is Will, and my boy Graham
What's good?
is in attendance. This is episode 2, and last night, as we all know, we had the big game, which turned out to be not so much of a big game,
Hmm.
where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defeated the Kansas City Chiefs 31-9. And with Brady collecting his 7th ring in the NFL, we can finally open up the debate. Who is better, Tom Brady or Teddy Bridgewater?
Teddy Two Gloves Town. Let's get it.
Okay, so Graham, last night, like we said in the intro, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers not only beat the Kansas City Chiefs and made Patrick Mahomes run for over 497 yards of scrambling,
Mm. Mm-mm-mm.
but it was just ugly. I mean, what's your thoughts on the game last night?
It was. I've never seen the Chiefs this vulnerable on offense. They couldn't get one thing going. I mean, right off the jump, you see Tyreek Hill drop that bomb in the end zone. You knew something was gonna be off. But man, I gotta give credit to the Buccaneers defense because they actually showed out. They actually showed out. But my one thing, my one thing, is the penalties. I did not agree with about a single penalty that was thrown. I know,
Especially in the first half.
yeah, the first half. I mean, it just ruined the whole vibe. I mean, you got the interception, which is hard to pick off Tom Brady, especially playoff Tom Brady, except for the Packers. They got that handled. And then they call this barely holding call when Mike Evans is tossing the other guy around too. Like they're just going at it, and it's a holding. Then you got 20 seconds on the clock. Tom Brady closes his eyes and chucks it up to Mike Evans. He gets his pinky toe tapped, and he falls down. Penalty. And then a play later, gosh, he's thrown it away. He's not even aiming for Mike Evans. Pass interference, I don't know. Just didn't agree.
And even and if those penalties weren't called, let's just say the Bucks get a field goal to end the half. 17-9, that's a much different vibe than 21-9 going into the break with the Chiefs getting the ball back. They're a touchdown away from tying, touchdown, a 2-point conversion away from tying the game.
Exactly. And out of the second half, the Chiefs came out and they had that one deep ball, and then you see it, Mahomes gets picked off because they had to make up points quickly. It just changed the whole game plan.
Wait, actually, it was 21-6 at halftime, but still, they got the field goal to start the second half, right?
Yeah, they got the field goal, then they got the ball back again, and then they were trying to get points quick. Nice little interception.
Hmm. Yeah, so, I mean, I think what happened was definitely attributed to the Chiefs having 3 offensive linemen out because Patrick Mahomes, in my opinion, played pretty well. Like those 2 interceptions he threw were desperation interceptions, and he had a lot of incompletions, but a lot of them are when he was literally parallel in the air, like going to the ground, chucking it up, and his wide receivers bouncing it off their heads.
He had some of the greatest incomplete passes of all time. He was doing Superman's laying out, spinning off people, throwing it without looking, hitting defenders in the face, and it just wouldn't go his way.
Yeah, I think he definitely played well enough to win the game, but his offensive line and partially wide receivers just completely sold on him.
Yeah, I mean, Travis Kelce had the best game as a receiver for that team, and even he, every time he caught the ball, he almost dropped it. Like, he double took back to his hands like to make sure it was in his hands. Like, that offense was just not clicking.
And he dropped that one pass that would have been a first down after they held the Bucks on the goal line for 3 plays. That would have kept the drive going early in the game, which could have sparked some momentum.
Yeah.
Mahomes definitely brought it, but he didn't bring enough up. He needed to be like probably the guy version of Captain Marvel last night to have any chance of winning that
That's a
game.
great comparison because, yeah, I mean, he would have had to play out of his mind. And the way the Bucks defense played, who cares about the penalties? Who cares if they were right or wrong? The Chiefs weren't winning the way the Bucks defense was playing. Like, it doesn't matter. It really didn't matter at the end.
No, I think even if it was a little closer in the first half because of the penalties weren't if the penalties weren't called, the Bucks were clearly the better team last night. And in the second half, they definitely had their foot off the gas a little bit on offense. In the second half, the Bucks did, and I think they definitely could have put up more points if they needed to last night.
Yeah, I mean, they went to the run in the second half. Playoff Lenny. My boy Leonard
Playoff
Fournette.
playoff Lenny, man. He got cut September 1st from the Jacksonville 1-15 Jaguars, and then Rojo was basically the featured back all year. But then playoff Lenny had over 100 total yards from yards of scrimmage each playoff game. All four he had like 500 yards total in four
Yeah.
playoff games. He was absurd.
He was ridiculous. I gotta give a shout out to my boy because he's from LSU. He wears his LSU jersey under his game jersey every single week. I love it. I love it.
Speaking of LSU, what do you think about the Tyrann Mathieu Tom Brady saga that was going on?
Dude, I mean they're both competitors. They're gonna chirp at each other, but it was actually hilarious when you see Tom Brady just sprinting down the field just to get back at the Honey Badger. I loved it.
Oh man, Psycho Tom, you don't poke the bear. I think he could have put up 5 touchdowns in this game. He had 3 in the first half. If he didn't know what he had to do by just running the clock out in the second half, he could have destroyed Tyrann Mathieu's life in the second half.
He really could have. I mean, yeah, you don't poke the bear, especially when this bear is the most experienced bear and the best at killing. You just don't poke that bear.
Yeah, Tyrann Mathieu should have taken the approach you do with black bears. You just stand still or run. I'm not really sure. I know there's a couple bears where you do different outcomes. Different tactics.
I think you're supposed to freeze maybe, and that's what he did. He was frozen the whole night because he wasn't really doing anything.
No, Brady exposed. That seam route to Gronk towards like that middle of the game. That kind of sealed the deal with that. I mean, Brady and the Bucs offense. I feel like they did exactly what they needed to do. Pretty much the whole game, apart from the first 3 and out. They ran the ball. They were keeping it short. They did just simple stuff. I mean, Mike Evans had 1 catch for 31 yards, and Godwin had 2 catches for 9 yards. But they just got it done. Brady did his thing. He was finding Lenny out of the backfield, and Gronk 6 catches. The man, the myth, the legend, Raul Gronkowski.
Yeah, dude, what a game for him. I didn't really think he was gonna have this big of an impact, but 67 yards, 2 touchdowns? That's pretty impressive.
It was 2013 out there.
It was. I mean, yeah, the Bucs just played to their game. They didn't force anything. They were doing little screens to Cameron break and getting everyone involved.
Yeah, for real. And Scotty and AB had a touchdown. Good for him.
I love that man. I need an HD picture of him holding up the Lombardi. I need it. I love that man.
And what I love about him is how much humility he showed after the game. Because after like all the issues he had the past 2 years, he had nothing but great things to say about how much he's changed and how much Tom's mentored him, bringing up to New England and now in Tampa Bay. Hopefully Antonio Brown keeps his head on straight for the end of his career, and I still think he's a Hall of Famer, despite all the crazy stuff that he's done.
So do I. The numbers he's put up are ridiculous. I mean, he's definitely on the right track, yeah, and he's shown it all year. You haven't heard a peep from him. He's just put his head down, went to work, and it paid off.
And in his last 6 games he didn't really play against the Saints, and then he was out against the Packers. He had 6 touchdowns in his last 6 games. He's going to be the man next year.
He is one of the greatest wide receiver talents ever. I don't care. Him throwing couches off balconies, we don't care about all that. He's a great receiver.
Yeah, pushing bikes down and then running away. I mean, he just had an episode, but I'm glad he's better now.
Me too.
And so I think that game was clearly nothing that no one expected that outcome, but I think we all wish it was a better game, but I guess we'll just have to wait till next year when the Chiefs offensive linemen are, healthy, because I think it's going to be a rematch.
I could see a rematch. I could see the Rams fighting with the Bucs. That's the only team I could see fighting with the Bucs, to be honest.
I could see Seattle with a few more pieces, but they're going to have to make some moves in the offseason. I could see really the Packers. My 4 in the NFC are the Bucs, Packers, Rams, and Seahawks.
Yeah, those are definitely the powerful teams. I mean, and the AFC, the Bills, if they got a little more experience this year, if hopefully they're not 1-year wonders. But
I think they need a number 2 wide receiver. I know Cole Beasley was the 2nd-team All-Pro wide receiver, which obviously makes him a number 2, but they need a real number 2.
He got 1 vote, so he got the all team by default, but.
Yeah.
They do need a true receiver. John Brown, he's not cutting it.
No, Josh Allen just needs one more weapon. I mean, and that man needs to learn how to not run 30 yards backwards every time he's about to get sacked. That's a big drive killer
Yeah,
strategy by
that's
him.
what, like one problem athletic QBs have. Sometimes they can rely on their athleticism too much, and then they're in a bad situation.
Yeah, I mean, Mahomes was doing that last night, but then he just threw it right on people's domes.
Yeah,
And
somehow he was
I,
getting out of it. I don't. That man's different.
yeah, he's by far. I saw a bunch of NFL players tweeting last night. Even though he lost, he's still by far the best player in the league right now.
It
And
can't be anyone else. I mean, Aaron Rodgers might have had the better like statistical season, but Mahomes just. I don't know. He's just different. He's too talented.
I mean, I always saw as a big Patriots fan, I always saw when you're really good, your numbers aren't the best because typically it means you're good on all facets, run, pass, where you have a balance, where your stats are a little bit less than maybe like the MVP type guys because you have that ability to keep it balanced and not show your tendencies too much and keep teams you're playing off balance. So I feel like Mahomes, even if he doesn't have the best regular season stats always, and he still had like 45 touchdowns, 6 interceptions this
Yeah,
year.
he
It
was
was
still the
still,
second best QB
it,
this year.
yeah, it was still stupid, but he could have easily gone for probably more if his team didn't. Because when you're that good, you play games during the regular season to prepare you for the playoffs, and that's trying new things.
Yeah, I 100% agree. 100% agree.
So the Chiefs will be back. I think they'll probably be in the Super Bowl next year, unless Baker Mayfield has something to say about it, or Josh Allen, as we were saying.
Good old Baker Mayfield.
The marvelous.
How do you feel about the Super Bowl MVP though? Because I saw a lot of chatter about people, wanting a defensive player like JPP or Devin White to get it.
I mean, I feel like it was too hard to hone in on one defensive player just because the whole defense was in sync. But Brady has enough at Super Bowl MVPs. I feel like when they don't really know what to do, it's a default to the quarterback. I think Levante David should have probably been the Super Bowl MVP.
Because there was
So
a
maybe
lot of key defensive players. It's yeah, like you said, it's hard to give it to like one person on a team defense, but I don't know.
Levante David had that ceiling interception, 10 tackles, and he was also sticking Travis Kelce the whole game. And even though he had big numbers, like a lot of his numbers were kind of stat padding at the end
Yeah,
of
they
the
were in the
game.
second half.
So I mean, well, the craziest thing is Mahomes against the Buccaneers in Week 12 had 416 passing yards. I want to say he had 110 going into the fourth quarter yesterday.
Yeah, I mean they shut down Tyreek Hill, who gave him he gave him some
He gave
nightmares
him
that game.
fits. He gave him fits, and
So
in
yeah,
that Week 12 game,
they definitely game planned really well.
yeah, Todd Bowles, he'll probably be a head coach 2023. Is that right? 2022, 2023 season.
He
He'll be the
definitely
coach.
deserves it. I mean, to shut down an offense of that caliber, not everyone can do it.
No, that's probably the greatest defense. I want to say that. I mean, the Bucks offense played great, but I want to say that's got to be a top 5 defensive performance in the Super Bowl of all time, right?
I mean, they didn't even score a touchdown. They were like one of 3 teams to ever to not score a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean the Patriots held the Rams to 3. That was a pretty good offense, but it doesn't compare to the offense that was on the field last night that was shut down.
Yeah, there's levels to it, and Jared Goff isn't on that level.
Yeah, like that offense was so explosive that year with the Rams, but they just had Jared Goff, who's
He wasn't ready for that moment, that's for sure.
no, he was pressed for sure. So I mean, all in all, what do you think about the weekend's halftime show? I thought it was kind of creepy.
The costumes, the running through the mirrors, that was a little weird to me, And I don't know. I don't think his vocals were synced up, or it was a little off. But Weeknd's a
It wasn't
great artist.
auto-tuned. It wasn't auto-tuned.
That's for sure.
Well, have you ever seen the movie Us?
No, I have not.
So basically, Us is this movie where like there's clones of every single person. There's a clone of like you and me, and they live on the underground, and they take over. Like they try to take over the upper ground, and they're called the Tethereds. And the Tethereds have those masks that the Weeknd's people were wearing.
Oh God.
And so, honestly, from someone who's seen that Us movies, I was extremely creeped out by that whole halftime show. I mean, the talent was undeniable, like we said the other day, but I don't know. And apparently the facelift was fake news. I got told that yesterday. I don't
Yeah,
know if that's
it
true.
was a publicity stunt clearly because that man he looked good. He looked good out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he had the look. I mean, he's kind of like a bootleg Michael Jackson with his whole like glove. I
He
don't
was
know what
doing
that's
them
about.
little Michael Jackson dance moves too. I picked that up. I was
Yeah,
like, what's this guy doing?
yeah. I mean, but he definitely was living life, and I think he really enjoyed himself. And he put $7 million into it. I could see where that extra funds was needed
I mean,
to,
he's definitely one of the greatest artists of our generation. So like, all
yeah,
shout outs to him.
it was quite impressive. What would you give him a grade? I say I'd give him a straight A,
I'd probably give him a B plus, B plus.
B plus.
You know, only because like, it's not my taste. And I'm not saying like rap's my taste, but like when Adam Levine and Maroon 5 did it,
But
I was digging
that was
that.
charged.
I was digging that. So I need that type of energy. I don't know if I saw that energy in the singing, but yeah, it was B plus.
All in all, solid. Good job, Weekend, if you're out there listening. Good job. So Brady gets a seventh, and if you didn't pick up on the joke in the beginning, the Teddy Bridgewater to Tom Brady comparison was a joke. But our next topic is not.
It's not.
So, as you can tell by my apparel, I am a long life Bostonian fan, and I like the Celtics, the Patriots, and the Red Sox. And I have grown up witnessing Tom Brady's greatness. Therefore, I do not think there's any athlete on a team sport that's a better leader and winner than him. But Graham over here,
Hold up. Let me show y'all something. Let me see if this camera moves. Who's that? Who's that right there? Yes, sir. That's what we talking about.
so we both set the stage. Tom Brady, Michael Jordan. Graham, the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, I'm just gonna say this. Football is the ultimate team sport. So I don't think a football player could be the greatest winner, the greatest leader in winning. Because you're playing football. You need a great defense to be successful. That's why I got Jordan. And, you know, 5-time league MVP. And he should have gotten more, you know. There's a lot of debate about Charles Barkley, Karl Malone getting MVPs over him. 6-time champion. 6-0. And that's he's flawless. And I know Brady's been there more. And I appreciate that more. But I think it's also he had like a top 8 defense every single time. So I think 6 in NBA it matches up well against 10 in the NFL. And every time he was there, he was the Finals MVP. You can't say the same for Brady. Now I know I said it's more of a team sport, so it's harder for him to get MVP every time. But every time Jordan was there, he was the best player leading his team to victory. 10-time leading scorer in the NBA. That's also an NBA record. He leads the league in scoring 10 times. That's an NBA record. 10-time All NBA first team for 10 years. He was the best player in the league on offense. Guess what? He was a 9-time All NBA defensive team player. So he led the league. He was the best defender in 9 years. Guess what? Tom Brady's only doing it on one side of the ball. Michael Jordan's willing his team to victory on both sides of the ball. He has a Defensive Player of the Year trophy in his resume. Guess what? 2 Olympic gold medals. He's doing it outside of just inside the country. Guess what? He's going national.
Tom Brady
Two,
doesn't play defense.
Tom Brady don't play defense. Guess what? 2 Olympic gold medals. Rookie of the Year. As soon as he came into the league, he was one of the greatest players. Throughout his whole tenure, he was known as one of the best players. It was undeniable. He was being called the GOAT, or considered in the GOAT conversation before he even won his first ring. That's how talented he was. He has the highest scoring average in the NBA Finals of ever. 41 points per game in the Finals. That's ridiculous. When you want to win, you want Michael Jordan because he elevates his game 10 times to what it was. You want Michael Jordan. Guess what? That's not just in the Finals. In the playoffs, he has the highest scoring average ever at 33 points per game. All the way through the playoffs. Oh, guess what? In the regular season, to get you there, he has the highest points per game ever at 30. He is constantly putting his team in the best position, giving him full effort. Oh, remember, all defensive NBA team. He's doing it on the defensive end too. He's not just doing one thing. He's doing both. And he has too many clutch moments to remember. Too many clutch moments. You got the flu game where it's the game-winning three. He got the shrug, the shrug when he has 35 in the first half of an NBA Finals game. He's got the shot over Craig Elo in the 89 playoffs. But guess what? You got in the 98 Finals against Karl Malone and the Jazz. Steals the ball from Karl Malone. That's defense. Then goes and hits the game-winning shot. That's offense. In the NBA Finals. He's winning the chip like that. You just can't find it anywhere else. I mean, I think he's the most all-around player when you're comparing the two. Guess what? Brady don't play defense. He needs a top 5 defense every year if he's getting that chip. Jordan's providing that himself.
Top 8.
Top 8, my bad. What I'm saying is, if you want to be a winner, the greatest winner, you got to have the credentials. And I think Jordan has all the credentials.
You made a lot of good points, Graham.
Thanks.
And Graham and I mean, it's hard to refute that because Michael Jordan is amazing. Was amazing, and the Last Dance documentary, it brought back the recency bias that many people had who were growing up in the Jordan era. But let me set the stage for you.
Said it.
2017. Down 28-3 in the Super Bowl. And let me tell you who his pass catchers were while that comeback was happening. Mind you, Rob Gronkowski was out.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't play that game.
Mm-hmm.
Danny Amendola. You might say, yeah, he was a good Patriots player. Undrafted. What has he done since he left? I can tell you, nothing. Julian Edelman. Stud. He was a Super Bowl MVP when we played the Rams. But he was drafted playing 0 games of his life as a wide receiver as he was a quarterback in college, and he's 5'10". Then Chris Hogan.
He built like you.
Chris Hogan. What sport did he play in college, Graham? Football at Penn State?
No, he played lacrosse.
Thank you. Chris Hogan played lacrosse at Penn State. And then he had James White. No one knew who that was outside of Patriots fans before that Super Bowl, and he accounted for 22 points catching the ball out of the backfield. And Malcolm Mitchell, a 5th-round pick out of Georgia that year, rookie. Yeah, he was also a target. And Brady, with 2 minutes and a little bit of change left in the third quarter, willed the team back on his back. He threw for over 250 yards in the fourth quarter, in the second half and overtime, to win the game 34-28 in the greatest Super Bowl of all time. And that's just Jordan made amazing shots time after time. Clutchest player ever to touch a basketball. But when you want to talk about galvanizing a bunch of guys who wouldn't have done that without you being the leader and running the forefront, there's nobody like Tom Brady in team sports that could have brought that crew together and won a Super Bowl down 20, spotting the other team 25 points late in the third quarter going into the fourth quarter. And along with that, just drive that he has to be the best. By the way, he wasn't like Jordan, where Jordan was picked 3rd, right, in his draft?
Yep.
Tom Brady was drafted 199, as everyone knows. But just the drive, he still feels that pain, I feel like. Like, that's part of the fuel that still drives him to be the best, proving everyone wrong every single day that they made a mistake. Every 31 organizations that did not draft him that day. And along with the time after time comebacks, I could go on and on. When he was down 24-0 at halftime to Denver, Peyton's Broncos, or when they came back and beat the Jaguars down by 10 in the fourth quarter with that Jacksonville defense to go to the Super Bowl. He threw for 505 yards in one of the Super Bowls he lost against the Eagles when his team put up 33 points. And the 2 other Super Bowls he lost, he put on game-winning drives. And I will admit, it's pretty sad he lost to Eli Manning, but he put his team in a position to win both of those games. And he's number 1 in NFL history in essentially every stat except passing yards, and he would have that, and he's going to have that stat next year. But he would have had already if Drew Brees didn't play in a dome his whole career. Also, he had 3 MVPs. Everyone knows it's harder to get. Oh, I mean, I'm not going to say it's harder in the NFL, but it's hard to get MVP. And I know Jordan had a few more, but Brady had 14 Pro Bowls, 7-time champion, 5-time Super Bowl MVP. And to Graham's point, it's a team sport. So, I mean, the whole team won the Super Bowl, not just Brady, but he was a huge instrumental part in all of them. He has a 769% winning percentage in his career, and he's a 4-time All-Pro. And what's Brady's greatest accomplishment? Winning this season with no OTAs, moving down to a state where COVID, well, I mean, during a global pandemic, he had to move, and then there's no preseason, so the team was kind of not in sync initially. And granted, he had studs on this team. I'm not going to take away. Great defense, great offense. Special teams was really bad, but they still won with they played well when they needed to. But Tom Brady at age 43, changing teams, had 43 total touchdowns, 12 interceptions in the regular season, and then he went on the greatest run in playoff history by beating Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers in Lambeau, and in the Superdome, Drew Brees. And then he tops it off by beating Patrick Mahomes, who everyone is calling the baby goat, in the Super Bowl, thrashing him. And in Tom Brady's playoffs this year, he threw for over 900 yards, 10 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and I forgot to add the best quarterback he played, Taylor Heineke. He took him down 4-0, 3 road games, and he was the first quarterback. And, I knew that Tom Brady was going to make the Super Bowl this year when after he got traded to the Bucs, and I heard that the Super Bowl was in Tampa Bay, because that's the one thing he hasn't done in his career. And I'm sure between San Diego and Tampa, both beautiful cities, he chose Tampa for that reason, because he wanted to finish the job and complete shattering the record book. That's my case for Tom Brady. He's a GOAT in my opinion, and on another day we'll discuss how he stands amongst all athletes.
You're not going to win that one. But I mean, okay. But the thing is, you don't hear much about Jordan comebacks, right? Or like Game 7 Jordans. Guess what? His team's never down.
He did have to do it.
His team's never down. He's the one that's winning. He doesn't go in Game 7s. You know why? Because it's over by Game 6, Game 5. He doesn't need a fourth quarter comeback. You know why? Because it's over in the third quarter. He is the reason that the team's dead before the game's over. You don't need a comeback. You don't need a resurgence.
That's a good point, but I kind of feel like, to your point that you made earlier, football is more of a team sport. So with basketball, you can have individual performances that can lift you above other teams, but in football, the whole team needs to be in sync. So sometimes when Brady would get down, it wasn't all on him, because he is one guy out of 22. But I see what you're saying, because Brady did not always play good when he got. There's a reason why they didn't score any points, why they were down 28-3. Brady point blank didn't play good in the first half. So if he was the killer from the start, they wouldn't have had to do all that theatrics. But it helped his case, I guess.
I mean, yeah, just Michael Jordan, one of the greatest finals performers of all time. You know what you're getting when you get to the finals with him.
That is insane. Never a Game 7 in the NBA Finals.
Just don't happen.
That's stupid. And that's insane. And my only last thing about this argument that I really think I got you on, maybe you'll have a good rebuttal, but Michael Jordan did retire the first time after winning 3 straight championships, right? And then went to go play baseball.
Yes.
How did the Bulls do the season after he left? They made the playoffs, right?
They made the playoffs 2 games over 500. It's not like they.
Okay. So they weren't. But what did they make it out of the first round? Did they win one playoff round?
I'm not sure their success, but I know when Jordan came back, that's when they started getting another three-peat.
I mean, I can't see. That's a good see. Like
Going
that's my only argument.
Going to three-peat, he leaves, no more winning. He comes back, more winning. That's how it works with Jordan.
He's an undeniable stud, and Graham and I both kind of are LeBron fans when it comes to the LeBron Jordan debate, but so far, I mean, LeBron needs to do some work to catch Jordan, but I think he's going to do it. But
So do I.
but I mean, all I'm going to say is the year Tom Brady tore his ACL in 2008, the Patriots did not make the playoffs.
They went 11-5. That's amazing
Yes.
in football. That's amazing. They
But they
did better than Jordan's team did without him. I'll
Yeah,
tell
I
you
knew you were
that.
going to say that, but then everyone says, oh, they have an easy division. The Patriots with Randy Moss, Russ Welker, and even Matt Castle, it wasn't a bad quarterback with Bill Belichick. They should be able to, manufacture at least at least 4 or 5 wins in that division, and then
Yeah, and
try
then
your luck
like
in the
Scottie
other games.
Pippen, he should be able to get some wins too.
Yeah, I guess. So I guess we'll say both teams. And I mean, I'm not going to count this year with New England. They were a shit show. Oh, they were a shit show all year. You know, COVID opt outs and whatnot. So the Patriot, I'm not going to use that part of the argument where the Patriots went 7-9 and the Bucks went. Number 7 came to Mr. Brady
Top
down in
six
Florida.
defense, sixth ranked defense.
He had a great team. I'm not going to deny that, but he still had to. They did go 7-9 last year, the Bucks.
He is the type of player that changes teams.
He's a culture changer, and I think we can both agree Jordan and Brady do that.
Yeah, wherever they
They,
go, you're gonna be successful.
it's like LeBron, Jordan, and Brady, and I'm sure Kobe and other loyal players that didn't switch teams over their time. Like they would have done had the same effect. But when greatness goes into your building, greatness is going to come out, and it's gonna spread like a virus.
That's a funny one. um,
So
I mean, I can keep rebuttaling if you want. I wrote a few notes
I
down.
mean, if you want to keep going with your rap sheet, go ahead. You haven't convinced me yet.
I mean, you talked about how you had like Chris Hogan and Julian Edelman and how they came from, they weren't supposed to be good receivers and they're not supposed to be the number one and number two receivers. We don't care about the credentials. We care about what they're doing. If they're doing good, we don't care what sport he played in college. He's being productive on the field. We're not going to say, oh, he shouldn't be doing that. He's doing it.
Well, Hogan went to Carolina after his days in New England. How did he do there?
He didn't even play for Carolina. He was on the field for like 20% of the snaps.
Ah, interesting.
Don't even make the comparison.
Yeah, but when did Carolina make the Super Bowl run? Why were if he was such a key part to the Patriots dynasty in the second half of the dynasty? Why couldn't he get on the field on Carolina when they weren't really a good team?
You see, I never said he was a key part. I said he's a productive player, and you can't discredit he was a productive player because he played a different sport.
All I'm gonna say
Because he was
is
on the Carolina Panthers when Cam Newton was getting shoulder surgery. Yeah, okay. He didn't put up good numbers. He wasn't
all I'm
in a
gonna
position
say
to.
all I'm gonna say is that the Bucks had no offseason. They had a tough schedule. In the playoffs, they finally figured it out, and with all these studs, it was pretty much a cakewalk in the last 2 games. I mean, if Brady didn't spot 3 interceptions against the Packers, toying with them, as I say, to make it close, they really smoked the 2 teams that were regarded as the best 2 teams in the league.
Yeah, they did. I don't know what you're trying to prove.
I'm just saying that, when Brady has actual weapons that he really didn't really have other than Gronk and Edelman for the past 10 years.
Don't say other than Gronk. Like Gronk and Brady isn't one of the greatest
okay.
connections in NFL history.
Okay, but you know what I'm saying. Jordan had equally as the same weapons, if not he had better throughout most of his career when he started winning his titles.
He had a lot of help. He had Scottie Pippen, a great defender. He had Dennis Rodman, Horace Grant, great rebounders. He had great shooters, but he was
Someone
also
like Steve Kerr,
yeah, like Steve Kerr. But he was also doing so much more for the team than Brady does for his team.
and that's an argument I can't defend. Obviously, there's 5 players on the court in basketball and 22 players that are key, impactful players in football. So ultimately,
And you're playing both ways.
and he was great at both ways.
The best.
But if we're gonna talk about things that Jordan does really good, combining obviously both the things that are essential to being the greatest basketball player of all time. Let's talk about GM Brady, executive Brady.
Let's
In New
talk.
England, he didn't really have that power because Belichick, ran the show, and he's really faded because of that this past season. I mean, he didn't really help Brady the past couple of years with supplying weapons. Always had a great defense. He knew how to draft defenders, and he was great at drafting late. But Brady goes to Tampa Bay, and I think they'd still be very good if they didn't get Leonard Fournette, if they didn't get Rob Gronkowski, and if they didn't get AB, because he would have still had Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. But what did those two do in the Super Bowl last night?
They ain't do jack.
Chris Godwin had 2 catches for 9 yards, and Mike Evans had 1 catch for 31 yards. But however, the 3 players that Brady brought with him to Tampa Bay accounted for all the touchdowns they had last night. And as I mentioned earlier, Leonard Fournette had over 500 yards of scrimmage in the 4 playoff games. So Brady GM, that might equal the influence that Jordan's defense had. Point blank.
That's the most insane statement I've ever heard in my life. And it's also a very big if, as if Tom Brady's like calling Leonard Fournette and telling him to get his butt over here.
That's what he did. I was listening to the post game interviews last night, and Leonard was like, Devin White, and because they both played at LSU, Devin White and Tom Brady hit me up and were like, yo, come to Tampa. And then same thing with Gronk. Gronk wouldn't have been there if Brady wasn't there. We all know that. Gronk would have still been in the WWE. And then Antonio Brown, he wanted to come to New England. He got kicked off the team for fair reasons. And then what happens is suspension's over, and he just finds his way to Tampa Bay. Coincidence? I think not. Those 3 definitely were there because of Tom Brady.
I mean, it's not really a challenge to bring one of the you're bringing in one of the greatest receivers of this generation, one of the greatest tight ends of this generation. Like, what do you expect?
Yeah, that greatest receiver didn't really pan out that well in Oakland.
He didn't play a game for Oakland.
In the end of his Pittsburgh career, he didn't end up well in New England.
He had 12 touchdowns his last season for the Steelers.
Yeah, but he ended up falling off the brakes. And they traded him, they got rid of him for a reason. But my point is,
on-field production is different from what he's doing like up here.
My point is, when we're talking about greatness and team building, Tom Brady brought that man back from a cliff that he was about to nosedive straight down into, and Tom Brady had a rope and he threw it as he was falling down.
I give Tom Brady a lot of credit for this man's mental recovery.
Oh my gosh, did you see the sincerity that Antonio Brown had in his voice last night during his post-game conference saying, I owe it to Tom?
Yeah, Tom was the one that said, yeah, I want him. I want to give him another chance. But he's not the one that told him to stop slapping his baby mama. Like, he's not the one that got all of his off-the-field problems.
Not only did Tom Brady let him live in his house with him when Antonio Brown was figuring stuff out in Foxborough, but he also let him live in his house in Tampa, in Derek Jeter's mansion for a couple of weeks when he was figuring stuff out in Tampa.
Oh, yeah, let me just give him one of my 42 rooms. Yeah, I'm such a good guy. Oh, he probably went out of his way to do so much to give him one of his penthouse rooms.
I mean, I'm just saying, man. I don't think Jordan could have brought Antonio Brown back.
I think Jordan would have laughed at Antonio Brown and said, I'm going to win one without you, you psychopath. That's what he would have done.
All I'm going to say is Leonard Fournette, over 500 yards.
Yeah, that's a lot of help Tom Brady had. That's a lot of help. 500 yards, 6 touchdowns in 6 games.
It's a team game. You need balance.
Exactly. So, it's more of a team game in football. So guess what?
Yeah, but
in basketball, you got to do more. So when you do more, you go to Jordan.
Let me just tell you this though. Ronald Jones, if he was the running back on the team last night, he would not have done what Leonard Fournette did. They're different running backs. Leonard Fournette's skill set made him elite yesterday.
Ronald Jones was a better runner the whole year than Leonard Fournette.
Until he got hurt. But Leonard Fournette was not getting any carries in the stretch when the Bucks lost to the Rams, Saints, and Chiefs in those 3 out of 4 games. I think that his demeanor and aggressiveness when he runs really contributed to the success of the offense in the postseason, because that mentality that he has to just get past people is something that Rojo, as someone who's never really been to the pinnacle of the sport like Leonard Fournette almost got to with Jacksonville, didn't really have. And Tom Brady knew he needs teammates like that. And so GM Tom Brady was, other than Todd Bowles, was probably the biggest contributor to the Super Bowl win last night than anything.
What I'm hearing is you're trying to grab at thin air any type of argument to make up for the fact that Jordan just did it all.
Brady can't. I mean, you're gonna just say exactly what you've been saying, and I can't defend this part. That it's a, it's a, it's more of a team game in the NFL.
Exactly. So Brady can't be in that conversation because he can't do that much.
But when you were talking about Tampa Bay has had the worst winning percentage of all time in the 4 major sports, and yeah, they had a boatload of talent. But you're saying if Jameis Winston was their quarterback this year, even if they got Gronk, Leonard Fournette, and AB, they would have been anything more than a 10-6 wild card exit.
Jameis Winston threw 30 touchdowns in that system. Any non-turnover prone quarterback would have had success.
But I don't think they would have had the Super Bowl win that Tom Brady had in 1 year without OTAs, without preseason games.
Every team was dealing with that. None of the teams had OTAs.
Yes, but it just shows to how great because the thing is before Brady came to Tampa, they were stat padded. They were a stat padding team. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, their production numbers went down this year.
Their defense also went from 17th to 6th.
And you think that's a coincidence that Tom Brady was on the team? That didn't contribute to their defense's success? Brady didn't turn the ball over, so
team, obviously your defense could be ranked better, but you don't just make a jump like that into an elite defensive category out of nowhere.
The time of possession went down probably extremely this year for that defense having to be on the field because Brady didn't throw half as many didn't have half as the turnovers as Jameis Winston had. So the defense was always put in bad positions last year. So Jameis Winston, like you said, any quarterback that's not turnover prone is likely to have more success than Jameis did record-wise. But I don't think any quarterback other than probably Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson maybe, those are the only 4 quarterbacks that could probably win the Super Bowl this year if they were on Tampa Bay's roster. But let me remind you.
That's a lot of quarterbacks.
Let me remind you, Tom Brady's 43 years old. And that's really the kicker that I haven't really implemented yet. Tom Brady at 43 years old. What did Michael Jordan do when he was on Washington?
I mean, they were a playoff team until he got injured. He had multiple 50-point games. He was a great player in Washington.
Would they have won a ring, though?
He wasn't playing to, win a ring. Did you see tell me the roster that they had.
That's something I can't tell you, but when Tom Brady had Chris Hogan, Danny Amendola, Julian Edelman, and no Gronk in the 2017 Super Bowl, they still, won. And Tom Brady was older than Jordan was when he retired.
No one's
at
denying
that age when he beat the Falcons.
No one's denying that that's a great Super Bowl win, but we're talking about collectively as being the ultimate winner, the ultimate leader of winning. You can't be a football player and be the top guy because they don't do enough to be solely the reason for you winning. In basketball, you can have one person be the real reason why you're winning. And Jordan was the best at that.
Brady's first year in the NFL, his team was 4-12 the year before. He sat the bench because they didn't really think of anything. They didn't really think anything of him. I'm not saying Brady's more talented than Jordan by any stretch of imagination because I would get roasted in that debate.
Yeah, no one's saying that. I'm saying he's better winner.
Better winner. We're just saying better winner. But the year before Brady the Bulls were dismal before Jordan got there, if I'm correct, right?
They were horrible. There was no culture there.
But right away, and granted, I know the Patriots had a great defense with Teddy Bruschi, Mike Vrabel, and Willie McGinnis back in 2001. Drawing a blank on the corner's name, who was just inducted to the Hall of Fame last year. Rodney Harrison, great 2001 defense, but they went 4-12 the year before. Tom Brady's the quarterback now. They go 12-4, beat the Raiders in the Tuck Rule game. You know, a little luck.
Mm.
Greatest takes luck. Greatest takes luck. And then they beat the Steelers.
Didn't
And
take luck for Jordan. Didn't take luck for him.
and they beat the greatest show on turf in the Super Bowl. Tommy Brady drives him down for the win. Tom Brady had 6 Super Bowl game-winning drives, and he would have had 8 if Eli Manning didn't outdo him in the Super Bowl, in those 2 Super Bowls where Tom Brady gave him fractions of time left. And you know, Eli Manning, I'll give him credit. He has Tom Brady's number that no one else has except, you know, Nick Foles.
Nick Foles.
Brady put up 505 in that game, so I don't put that game at all on Brady. He had 505, 3 touchdowns.
I thought he was supposed to like will people to win, and like
You
he
know-
was just like collectively just gonna charge them through. That's what you said.
Well, Bill Belichick would have put Malcolm
What type
Butler
of
on
guy
defense in that game.
can he just get all these players together and win this game?
He did it in the week before, 2 weeks before, it's against Jacksonville when they were down 20-10. I mean, sometimes the magic that was on that Philadelphia Eagles ride to that Super Bowl is undeniable.
It is
They were just-
undeniable, but I mean, it's
They were just the dog masks. It was scary. You know, they were playing Dreams and Nightmares by Meek Mill.
there's just too many scenarios in Tom Brady's career where he was behind or not doing his job where you won't see that on Jordan's resume. You just won't.
Well, you know why you won't see it? Because you don't have to be great every single game in a series to still win the series.
But Jordan
Same.
was.
But Jordan, I know you're saying that Jordan never went to Game 7, and that's absurd. But he did go to Game 5 and 6, which means he might have had some bad games sprinkled in there. And yes, he won when he had to win, but it's impossible to play at the precise level every single second in any sport. And Jordan had the benefit of being able to do that because you have to win 4 games, which means you were the better team. You proved you were the better team. But there was times when you could play bad and the other team wins a few games. In football, there's not that commodity available. You have to be on top of your game 24/7. And I think that's the biggest difference between football and basketball because there's only one game and you're out. 60
I
minutes
do
of
agree with
football
that.
versus-
It is more challenging because it's not a series. You have to win straight up. But Michael Jordan did take a day off. He has the highest NBA Finals scoring average, playoff scoring average, regular season scoring average, and he's playing defense while being the best offensive player. He's also the best defensive player. And guess what? He's averaging 6 rebounds. He's averaging 6-7 assists. Like he's doing everything, and his team is the best in the league. You can't say that for Brady. Year in and year out, he is the reason that they are the best. You can't.
See, I think you're confusing a little bit though. Talent versus winning.
Because
you're
his
saying-
talent and what he's doing is translating to winning. Brady's talent was not. Half the time it was his defense that was translating it. So you can't be the greatest winner if you're not the sole reason or the majority of the reason that you're constantly winning.
Yeah, I mean, Graham, that's the point that I cannot rebuttal because you were right. Football is the ultimate team game, and so it's harder to have an impact on both sides of the ball, and you don't play both sides of the ball.
Exactly.
But
You need
Tom
a well-built
Tom
team.
Brady's ability to seal out games and not giving his defense an opportunity to blow games by holding onto the ball, making the right calls, calling the right audibles on the field. I mean, when Brady has the ball with 2 minutes left, we all said, why would LaFleur not go for the touchdown because Tom Brady's in the NFC Championship game because Tom Brady's on the other side and he's going to run the clock out.
Mhm.
Brady has that where you just know if you give him the ball back, it's game over. And if the defense would have got the ball, who knows? If Green Bay were to get the ball back, and we talked about, and that was kind of sus, that pass interference penalty on Kevin King at the end. But, I mean, if the defense has to get back on the field, they were looking a little shaky in the second half, aided by Brady's 3 picks, but they were looking a little shaky in the second half against Green Bay. I don't know if Green Bay is not champions today.
Yeah, well, and my argument is that he's doing everything. His team's winning. He's never in that position where you have to come back or have to be great at the last moment because there's no last moment. There's no Game 7. He's doing it right. He's getting the job done early. And going to Game 5, saying, oh, he might have had a bad game. It's impossible to sweep in the NBA Finals. I mean, you really have to. It has to be one-sided. Like, it has to be KD Warriors versus LeBron and Deladova to sweep. Like, it doesn't happen. So yeah, it goes to Game 5, it goes to Game 6. That's just because it's the two best teams in the league playing. It's not. That doesn't mean Jordan played bad. It just means they're the second best team in the league and they're putting up a good fight. Jordan scored 63 points in a playoff game and lost. Like, you don't have to have a bad game to lose.
Brady threw up 500. Brady had 505 passing yards and lost the football game.
Well, I'm not holding that loss against him. I love going to the championships more. That's why I like LeBron.
And I think you will agree with this point that you got to get to the dance to play in the dance, and Brady got to the dance more than Jordan got to the dance.
Yeah, I mentioned that earlier, but it's also your team has a bigger impact. Like, you could have a great defense and get to the dance. That's why I'm saying six.
If Jordan's skill set's so individual, if basketball is such an individual game, how couldn't the greatest winner of all time get to more championships than 6?
Well, there's a lot of circumstances, but that's really not what I want to get into because we could talk about how he played Larry Bird. We could talk about how he played Magic. We could talk about how he played the Bad Boy Pistons.
Peyton Manning, Philip Rivers.
Philip Rivers, stop. Don't even say that.
He's a Hall of Famer.
Okay, but he was never regarded as an elite, like a top of the level QB. Like, don't even say that. I'm listing first ballot Hall of Famers, legends in the game, and you're listing Philip Rivers.
That's okay. Well, the AFC was weaker, but he got to where he needed to be he got to where he needed to be at a higher rate than anyone.
He did. He's the best football player. I don't care about his football. We're talking about winning.
It's a great. I mean, I think it's clear that Graham and I are both not gonna, budge on this one.
We both are a little stubborn.
We're both a little stubborn. If you're watching this video, first like and subscribe to our channel, but also leave your comments saying who you think is the greatest winner in team sports, whether it's Brady, Jordan. If you have someone else in mind, list them. We'll tell you why that's wrong, because it's really only between these two.
No Bill Russell. That man played against mailmen.
No, yeah, Bill Russell, great guy, great player. But, when he was playing the league, there were only 8 teams.
Yeah,
so,
it's not. We're not comparing that.
No. And basketball, I'm pretty sure people showed up drunk more than they showed up ready to play basketball back in Bill Russell's days.
We don't know what happened in that era.
As you say in Spanish, ellos borracho. All right, so like I said, if you are inclined to say who you think is the greatest winner of all time, please leave that on our comment section. And that's all we got for tonight. This was In Rhythm Podcast, Episode 2. Herbo, send us out.
Thank y'all for listening. We appreciate every single one of you guys. We ran up the views last time. Over 100 first day. We love y'all. Peace.